Okay, so today we'll continue with the like a pipeline itself. Even we need to discuss more on the pipeline wise. Okay, so what is the stage failure behavior we'll discuss? So what is the default behavior is like a fail faster. That means if any of the stage fails by default, what is the behavior is the pipeline is going to be aborted. If any of the stage, say suppose first stage, second stage, at any of the stage, if it is a failure happens, by default the default behavior is the fail fast and our pipeline is going to be stopped. There are a lot of advantages in the real time also. If any of the pipeline fails, we'll get the notification and that corresponding team will look into that pipeline why it is failed and at the early stage or fail fast. If it is failed fastly, we can identify those issues also at the early stage itself. Okay, so that is the purpose. This is the default behavior. Okay, so then if any of the stage fails, okay, so by default, if any of the stage fails, automatically the stage is getting failed. Okay, so then by default, if we keep this one, if sh exit one, automatically the Jenkins is going to fail. Okay, so then my behavior is if one stage fails also, say I want to continue to the next stage instead of aborting my pipeline. That means if any of the pipeline fails also, what is the default behavior is it's fail fast and the pipeline is going to be aborted. But what is my behavior is I don't want that pipeline need to be aborted. So pipeline it's not required to abort. Okay, so then here what I'm doing is I'm keeping that in a catch block. Okay, so I'm keeping that in the catch block. Okay, so then even if this failure happens also, it goes to the next stage. It goes to the next stage. Okay, so that means here I'm using, say suppose even if the pipeline fails also, that means one stage fails also, the pipeline default behavior is fail fast, but I don't want that behavior. It should continue to the next stage instead of aborting my pipeline. Then what I need to keep is we need to keep that catch error. Okay, and in this stage we are keeping in the catch error. Okay, so by catching that, here we are going to use it's not going to abort that pipeline even that fails also. It's just collecting the results and finally in the post operation it is showing the pipeline has been like uh, uh, exited. Okay, so that means if it is success, it's going to show as the success. If it is failure, it show as the failure. But even at the first stage, even it's got fail, okay, all stages will execute. Okay, so for this use case, what we are using, so we need to tell catch error, and in that catch error, we are going to collect that result, and based on that, it's going to show that in the post operations, but it's not going to abort the pipeline, it's going to execute the pipeline. Okay, so then here we have a Jenkins pipeline with exception handling. Say in the exception handling, what we are doing is here we are catch. Normally any programming language will have the exception handling. There would be some of the unhandled exceptions would be there. Those we are going to keep in the try block normally, and the catch is going to be is going to catch that, and normally we'll keep finally kind of block irrespective of that try catch. Okay, so catch is going to execute if any error found itself. Okay, so now here also we are going to we are going to keep the try block, and in the try block, if any unhandled exception comes, the catch is going to be will caught that error. Okay, but what is the difference between catch here and finally? What is the difference? say catch steps, if any like a exception like occurred, then only it's going to come. Otherwise, that exception is not going to be that try block is not going to be executed. That try block is sorry, that catch block is not going to be executed. But what is the meaning of the final block is irrespective of the statements, like the final steps are getting executed. Irrespective of those changes, the final block is getting executed. Okay, so that like that we'll have the final block would be there. Okay, so like this here we can keep the try, catch, and exception also. So we can perform. Okay, so try, like it's going to keep whatever the statements you have doubt, any error may occurs. And if any unhandled exception found, it throws the catch block. Okay, then like here we have finally it's going to execute those finally block. And in the post operation also, like here we are going to keep the success, failure, and unstable and aborted also we can keep. Okay, so it depends upon the pipeline. In the post operation, we can keep, and even we can integrate with the notification also with the SMTP kind of server. We can send the corresponding notification also. We can send to that corresponding team. We can send these all the issues we got, and based on that, we can resolve those issues also. We can resolve. Okay, then here we are going to tell we are very long back. We have the like uh, scripted pipeline. We have the declarative pipeline. So what are the advantages we have with the scripted pipeline? Sorry, declarative pipeline is simple, and one of the best practice in the pipeline as of now is better to prefer declarative syntax because that's easy to understand. Okay, so then when we need a complex logic, then better to go for scripted pipeline. But mostly, like Jenkins also prefer to use declarative pipeline itself. Jenkins prefer to use declarative pipeline. Then always like we need to keep the pipeline as the code itself. We need to keep always we need to keep the pipeline as the code itself. What is the advantage is we can control everything on the Jenkins, and as the Jenkins file itself we need to keep in the pipeline as the code itself, and any auditing permissions, all those also we are going to get through the pipeline as a code. Okay, then better to keep fail fast. Okay, that means if any of the critical stage fails, better to abort the pipeline. So instead of continuing to the next stages, better to go with the better to abort the pipeline itself is the recommended one. So that is also one of the best practice. Then even we need to keep the exception handling also we need to keep. So then we need to keep this different stages also we need to keep, split the pipeline into multiple stages. Don't keep multiple statements in the single pipeline, single stage, don't keep. Better to split them into multiple stages. Okay, and whatever we can do, try to keep them parallelly. So parallel independent steps better to keep, and parallelizing the stages also will execute those steps very fastly. It can be executed. The fastly it can be executed. So that is also one of the advantage. Like by keeping the parallel and make the pipeline split into like a smaller stages also. Better to split them into smaller stages and even perform the parallel kind of stages also. And definitely in the one of the best practices, we need to manage the secrets also. Very sensitively we need to keep, and global credentials or HashiCorp vaults or AWS credentials manager, or if you are using Azure vaults, from those we need to manage those credentials. So from the Azure, from those we need to manage the credentials also we need to manage. So that is also we need to perform. And always we need to use the environment variables also, make it multiple parameters or environment variables. And depends upon the environment, we can use those parameters also we can use. And one more thing is, here we can use the shared libraries also now. That is also one of the good feature. Shared libraries also we can get that shared libraries also one of the advantages. So with the sharing the libraries, again, you no need to write the complete code across the multiple projects. We can keep those shared libraries. Uh, Say just like a functions kind of thing, we'll have the advantage also. Like always, like it's recommended to use like from the like from the shared libraries we are going to perform. Then, like even we need to keep the timeouts also. Sometimes otherwise jobs are keep on like waiting. So that's the reason better to perform a timeout kind of things also. Better to keep for longer operations. Better to keep for the timeout kind of things also. Better to perform. And parallel stages already we discussed. And always send the notifications, because sometimes users may be not watching the Jenkins. If they got any email or maybe any Slack or any Teams notification, better to perform. Okay, so that is also one of the advantage. And we need to keep that um, Jenkins. Normally we are using slaves as the Linux kind of missions, but now even we can use Docker or Kubernetes pods also. And don't give the root access to the Jenkins slaves. Better to give Jenkins user permissions itself. Better to give, even while adding the slave also, don't give root access. So don't give the root access. Don't give. Okay. So that is also we need to perform, and always we need to do the testing also before moving to production. And better to have an approval gates also till we got the maturity about the pipeline. Okay, so then here we need to use like a declarative options also, like a timeout kind of thing, and parallel runs of same job, timestamps also to the logging. Okay, and only last 20 bills we are going to keep these kind of options also. We need to add. Then always we need to monitor. There are some plugins related to Blue Ocean UI. If any of the stage fails, it shows the notification. And even we can integrate with the Prometheus and the Grafana kind of dashboards also. And we can collect the metrics also, because these metrics also very important. For the pipeline wise also, how much time it is taking, average time, and how many build failures happens. Like this also, we need to collect all these metrics also. Okay, so by making all these, like our pipeline should be reliable, secure, scalable, and developer friendly. We need to make it. So this is not only for the Jenkins. Either you can use Azure pipelines or GitHub Actions, GitLab Actions. For anything, these all the best practices. Like we need to tell. And always one of the best use cases for the reusability. we need to use like a Jenkins, like a shared libraries we need to use. So what is the meaning of Jenkins shared libraries are? Like shared libraries, like we are going to keep the shared libraries in the Groovy script, and whenever we want those like scripts we can import and we can manage them. Okay, so those are the just reusable kind of scripts. Okay, so Jenkins, like here we are going to use like a reusable kind of, like if you have any stages, keeping the complete stage. Okay, so we are going to reuse that script as the shared library, and whenever we want, we can call those scripts. Okay, so now here, this is one of the powerful feature. Most of the companies now, if they are using Jenkins for the reusability, modularity wise, like a cleaner, reusable kind of a code we can keep in the shared libraries. Okay, so normally if you keep the stages, lot of pipelines will have lot of duplicate kind of code. Okay, build, test, deploy. These all like will have lot of duplication, tough to maintain, and but shared libraries is the solution for that. So we are going to keep the shared libraries in a central Git repository, and we can use it across the multiple Jenkins files. The same thing even in the GitHub Actions also, one action or maybe one workflow is nothing but like that action we are calling. That's code is already there. We are just calling those. Okay. Even we can also create our own workflows also in the GitHub. But the main advantage of the shared libraries are like here we are going to maintain like the reusability and the folder structure. What are the folder structures we have is the mostly the extension is dot groovy, and in the root directory of the shared libraries we have vars, source, resources, readme dot md, like this we have. So in the vars directory, so we'll have the groovy scripts that's behave like the global functions. SRC will contain the fully groovy classes, packages, and the complete logic is going to be stored. Then resources are getting stored, configuration files or templates are there. And readme.md contains all the documents, how to we need to use it. Okay, so now here we have these all the things we are going to keep. So what are the directory structure we have is we have the vars, then we have SRC, resources, then docs we have. Okay, so these all we are going to store. Then we have we are going to keep uh, like global variables we are going to keep. Then after global variables, like what are the stages we have. Then like SRC, even if any custom Groovy also we are going to keep by using the classes. It's little tough. We can tell we have a knowledge on the shared libraries, but we are not using those. But those who have 5 + 6 years, better to explain. Even shared libraries also we are using, and resources will keep all the configuration files, all these. Then once we create those, we need to keep those in the in the global pipeline. All the libraries we need to add. So we need to add all the libraries, and what is the version of that in the global pipeline libraries. Even from the GitHub path also we can give, and we need to give the name of the shared library. Now like whenever we are running that pipeline, Jenkins is going to pull that shared library, and that shared library name, say suppose we have given my shared lib, then while using that, then now here we need to keep this one just like normally import boto3 like this. We are using the shared library. Okay, that my shared library path like we have in the GitHub, and that GitHub path we have given in the manage Jenkins global pipeline libraries we have given, and we added our GitHub URL. Then what is the name of that shared library URL we have given is my shared lib, and in our pipeline what we are using is the first line we are keeping this code @library, my shared library we are going to give. So what is the main advantages? my pipeline, Docker build. So these kind of in the examples we'll discuss. So those already we have written the code. We are just reusing them. So just we are reusing them. Okay. So the main advantage is here we are going to get the version control, and even we can keep the modular kind of things also we are going to keep. Then testing also we can, before itself we can test all those, and we'll have the proper documentation, and we'll have the approval process. So these all the advantages we are going to get. So now here we have like one shared library. In the vars we have deploy app dot groovy we have, and one in the Jenkins file, like what is the function name we kept is like a like we are deploy app. Okay, that shared library name with the version we are calling, and in the pipeline, like the deploy app. So for the parameter, what is the parameter we are passing here? What is the parameter we have passed? So dev is the parameter we have passed. So dev is the parameter we have passed in that. So with this, what is the advantage is this deploy app, this all the code we need to keep in our pipeline, but just we are calling that deploy app we are calling. In that we are giving that environment is, what is the environment we have given is like dev environment we have given. Then that particular stage is getting executed. That particular stage is getting executed. So that is the main advantage of using that is the main advantage of using the shared libraries. Okay, so now here we kept the name as my shared library, and we given the version v 1.2, and whenever we want to call that that library, here we are calling. In that we have the lot of code, but that's we are just calling that code we are calling. Okay, so like this here we can use the shared libraries we can use. So then here we have the vars deploy app.groovy. Then here this say hello dot groovy is just doing printing the hello world. And here this is dev call is another shared library. And in our pipeline, like we are going to keep that like notifications, all these. Then we have the versions. These are the Kubernetes manifest files. Then in this is our pipeline. Then in our pipeline, we are importing that my shared library. We are importing, and that like a groovy scripts. Like say hello is one shared library. Deploy app is one like a class or function kind of thing. And here this is also one like a utils dot notify. This is also one a script we are going to call. Then like in the manage Jenkins system, global pipeline libraries, we need to give that name, main version, and we need to add that GitHub URL. Then Jenkins file also we can keep in another repo. Then automatically that is going to reuse. So that is the main advantage. And this already I think we discussed. If any of the stage fails, like it's going to be aborting the pipeline by default. Okay, so then like coming to the lab things, the Jenkins master and slave. Have tried to set up the master and slave for the Jenkins. Have tried to set up the Jenkins master and slave.
Not it, sir. Today I will try.
Yeah, try to configure the master and slave. At least go through the steps and how to explain. And from the Jenkins itself, that slaves either it's maybe Docker or Kubernetes pods also, or nowadays from the cloud also we can take those. So
Okay.
from the cloud also like AWS, not only Linux or Windows, Mac. nodes. So the slaves also is possible to set up. Then everyone need to run the Jenkins pipeline. Okay, and use the Jenkins file means from the source code in the GitHub we need to keep it. Then like need to configure Jenkins webhook. Webhook hyphen GitHub we need to configure, and with that URL we need to set up the webhook. Then if any of the code committed automatically, the pipeline is going to trigger. Instead of automatically triggering this one, we have one more method is there, that is Jenkins. Like we have like whole SCM we have, or build periodically. So in the build So with the build periodically, what is going to happen is, like poll SCM or build periodically, what is the meaning of this is, we can schedule, like at a specified time we can schedule. It's just like a cron job in the Linux. In the Jenkins, we can give the time, or in the pipeline also we can specify. At that moment, my pipeline is going to trigger. I'll tell one example. At 9 o'clock, developer committed the code. Okay, so then here, if I have the webhook, what is going to happen? If you have the webhook, what is going to happen? If I have the like at 9 o'clock itself, that pipeline is going to trigger. Okay, but my requirement is at night at 12 o'clock that need to be done. At night at 12 o'clock, it need to trigger. Okay, so then I'm going to configure Jenkins poll SCM. So in the Jenkins poll SCM, what is the advantage is when you want to trigger the pipeline, okay, so that's we can specify. Okay, so then what is the advantage is, say if I use a webhook, what is the problem here? It's going to trigger at 9 o'clock itself. But my business requirement is 9 o'clock. I have the business. I don't want to do it. I want to do it at 9 to 12 o'clock like that. Okay. So then whole SCM is going to trigger in the uh, at the scheduled time it's going to do. Then what is the difference between build periodically and whole SCM is both are through the cron jobs itself is going to trigger, but the main difference is even at that moment, like that's the build is supposed to come by 12 o'clock, right? But at 12 o'clock, developer not committed any code. Okay, so developer not committed any code. Then with the whole SCM, that build is not going to trigger. Okay, but if I use build periodically, can you tell me what is going to happen? If I use the build periodically, whether the developer commits the code or not, the pipeline is going to, the pipeline is going to trigger. Okay, but the cron job configuration is same. So cron job configuration is same, but the difference is if any of the code changed right from the previous code, then only whole SCM is going to trigger. But build periodically, whether irrespective of the changes are there or not, I want to perform. Then I want to do any backup kind of things. These all I can use the scheduled activities kind of things I'm going to call build periodically. Okay. So then here we need to configure the whole SCM configurations those examples. We'll discuss how to configure a whole SCM kind of setup. It's just like a cron job kind of thing. In the cron job also we have 5 parameters we have for scheduling. One is minutes. Okay. So second one is hours. The third one is date of month kind of thing. Day of the month. Then we have the month. Then DOW. So date of the day of the week. Okay, so now here in the minutes, we can like in the first star, say here we can specify this through 5 stars. That first star is like we can give the minutes. The first star is minutes we can give. So in the minutes we can give 0 to 59. Then the second one is hour. Say in the hours we can give 0 to 23 we can give. The hours we can give 0 to 23, and day of the month like we can give between 1 to 31 we can give. Okay, then for the month we can use 1 to 12 we can specify. Okay, then day of the week, the day of the week we can give 0 to 7 we can give. Okay, so that's like even we can use the h also, that's going to be hash. Okay, that's going to be hash is the value. Then here we have like here try to understand here that hash h star 15 or 5 also we can give stars, that spaces are required between those stars. Okay, so what is this meaning is this is going to SCM for every 15 minutes. If any of the new commit comes, automatically is going to perform. Okay, my build is at like maybe 2 o'clock. So what this is going to do is it's going to poll that at every day 2 a.m. it is going to perform. Every day at the 2 a.m. Like it's going to perform. Okay, so like this here we can specify, and I'll tell one more. So now here we can use h slash 30 means it's going to verify for every 30 minutes. And what I'm doing here is 1 to 5 means I'm not going to perform this on the weekends. I don't want to perform. I want to do it only on the one stands for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay. Say 0 or 7 represents what?
Whole week with
Sunday.
including Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, yeah. 6 is Saturday, but 0 or 7 both represents
Sunday only.
Sunday itself. Okay. So then I want to perform each every day at like maybe at morning 9 o'clock I want to perform, and evening 6 o'clock. That means 18. I want to perform like every day. So like this also we can trigger. So then even at Saturday night or Sunday night, like this also we can specify. And even in your pipeline also we can configure this policy. At that moment automatically that pipeline is going to be triggered. Okay, so like this here we need to configure either webhook we can use or policy we can use or build periodically also. So it depends upon our requirement. We need to choose the best method how to trigger the pipeline. Okay, so then try to schedule one for every 5 minutes like that and check that your pipeline is triggering or not. Webhook also try to trigger. Then from your Jenkins, like we need to have a pipeline with Maven, Gradle, then JUnit, Nexus, SonarQube, Quality Gates. Then here in the downstream, we are going to call the like In the post operation, we are calling downstream job, and the downstream job is like our CD job mostly. Our downstream job is the CD job we are going to call. Okay, so that's a upstream job is the CA job, and we are going to call the downstream job also we are going to call. Okay, so once we perform this upstream and downstream operations, okay, so then what we need to do is like we need to integrate here in this downstream job, we need to integrate with the Terraform or Cloud Formation, or we can use any of the Ansible also we can integrate. Okay, so these are for the IAC and cloud configuration management we are going to perform. Then Dockerizing the images, Docker scanning, then pushing to registry. Say here in our environment, ECR or Docker Hub will use. Then after this, we are going to perform deployment into Kubernetes. Okay, so after deployment, we can integrate with the regression testing also. Then the regression testing, we are going to use Selenium kind of scripts or Tosca, APM kind of tools we are going to use for the regression testing. Okay, and finally, we are going to use like maybe reporting, notifications, continuous monitoring, all those also we need to use. Okay, yeah, any doubts on this? Okay, so these all the pipeline, and this is not only for the one branch, we need to make it multi-branch. So we need to make it the multi-branch. So what is that meaning is, like if for the dev, it would be the dev steps it will perform, depends upon the branch name. Like single pipeline we are keeping for the dev branch, we are not keeping one pipeline. For the QA branch, we are not keeping one pipeline. For the production branch, we are not keeping one pipeline. We are keeping multiple branches, and from that we are going to manage it. Okay, so we need to have a multi-branch pipeline. We need to tell for the instead of keeping one branch, one pipeline, we are making multiple branches, and each branch will use like a all branches will use the same pipeline. We are going to use it, and in this also we are going to use shared libraries. Shared libraries we are going to use. Already says for Sonar Cube, already we have one Docker wise, we have one shared library. Deployment to Kubernetes, we have already the shared library across the other teams also. Those libraries we can reuse that. So that is advantage of using shared libraries we can use. Okay, so these all we need to manage. So how that pipeline looks, a multi-branch pipeline, how that we need to explain in our job. That's we'll discuss. This end-to-end pipeline, we need to explain even in the interview wise also, we need to explain this. This complete end-to-end pipeline, we need to explain. And shared libraries, you can tell I have a knowledge, I didn't use that. Okay, because it required more groovy kind of scripting also. But you can tell I have knowledge on that shared libraries. Okay. Yeah. Any doubts on this? So how that multi-branch pipeline looks and we'll discuss, but try to integrate with the with this here Nexus, Sonar Cube, and try to call with the quality gates also. Then in the CI post gym, like here we are going to do the CD job we are calling as the post operation. That means if the CA is successful, then only we are going to call the CD job. Okay. So these all like try to perform those. Yeah, any doubts? Any doubts in this? Okay. So next session we'll discuss this multi-branch pipeline. These all we'll discuss. Meanwhile, try to integrate with any of the tools. Either that's maybe JFrog, Nexus, Docker, Ansible. So try to integrate with any of the tools. Okay.